everyone. My name is Roland, and I am the team lead at Muwado, Africa's storytelling platform. So if you haven't heard of Muwado, we are an online platform, muwado.com, muwado.com. And we are a community of about 2,000 plus African storytellers that are just enjoying each other's stories and connecting through, our experiences and our shared relatable stories. So Muwado is also very big on trying to monetize these stories so that the creatives who are telling these stories can make a living, make some income of the story. So that's a very big component of our agenda and our mission. So to further this, we organized the Art of Commercial Storytelling webinars to help the members on our platform, first of all, get a refresher on the basics of storytelling, be it fiction or non-fiction, or even audio storytelling, but also to just introduce them and take them on a deeper dive on digital storytelling, which is what we practice because we're based online. But lastly, we also wanted to just shine a light on the commercial aspect of storytelling for those who are serious and who want to make some income of this talent that they've been given. So that's the purpose of these webinars, and we look forward to seeing you in as many of them as we can. And at this juncture, I'll pass on to the facilitator to begin. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Roland. In Ghana, it's good afternoon. And I hope the previous sessions have gone really well. You've heard all you need to know about me, very simple. But I'm very passionate about media content that brings solution, that harms no one, that rather enlightens even more than entertain. Of course, there's the aspect of entertainment, but then it must enlighten and it must bring solutions in our modern day practice. So in this session, 3 things we're going to be studying. You get to understand the techniques for creative nonfiction writing. And then, of course, the need for solutions journalism, which is popularly known as SOJO in modern day practice. You also get some understanding on how to fact check or the essence of fact checking, and of course, ethical guidelines in this practice. Now, we move straight into it. When it comes to writing, we have those who write for fun, we have those who write for several other purposes, but then of course, it varies on the kind or on the nature of what you want to produce. So there's the literary write-ups, the narrative write-ups, the reflective write-ups, and then there's the experimental write-ups. For purposes of this training, we'll focus on the literary and the narrative types of writing. Now, basically, literary approach to writing is purely literature, okay? So we have features, we have magazine reports, and there are key elements to them that makes you know that this is a literary piece. And of course, the use of imagery, and when I talk about imagery, I'm not talking about pictures or motion footage when it comes to broadcasting alone. But then, of course, there's a way you could write where you create a mental picture, in the mind of the reader or the consumer. So you use vivid descriptions to recreate scenes and settings. That's of past events or of something that but you're trying to direct our minds to it. The mind, a very fertile ground. So you use the imaginative tools to create that mental picture for the audience or the consumers through your writing. Now, the descriptions. So you use sensory details to refer to people, places, and objects. That is also an aspect of literary writing. Then, of course, there's dialogue. where you incorporate conversations into your write-up to bring the characters and the stories to life. You know, we may not have been there, we may not be in your mind and know what what you seek to create, but then from reading your piece and the pictures that build up in our mind, we can literally be sitting there and be thinking, oh wait, this person was just talking and poking the hand almost, in the eyes of the other. Yes, that's where you create that, mental image in your descriptive writing. There's dialogue also. There's figurative, where I think this is very common with Nigerian writers. They employ metaphors and similes. They literally don't go straight to the point. They have to use adages and various literally to kind of like give a vivid explanation or description of the bottom line they want to talk about. So all of these are the tools that make up for literary pieces or literary write-ups, whether for broadcast purposes, for print purposes, or for digital purposes. Now we move on to the narrative. That's the narration approach. This is very, very common in broadcast or in digital media, because if something happens right now and somebody wants to talk about it, for the content producers, you just go live on your phone, whether TikTok or whatever, and you are given a situational report. So that's one aspect, that's one example of it. And then there's also the investigative reports that you need to unravel everything step by step by step. And so the elements are storytelling. That's, you have a clear beginning, you have where you know that you're focusing the core of your story at, which may be the middle or the end. I'm sure from your earlier engagements or training, you would have studied about how to storytelling. Either you open with the core of it and then you digest it downwards, which is the upside down pyramid kind of approach, or you start slowly and gradually from the top, which is a proper pyramid, and then you broaden the story down to the base. And in all of this, all you are trying to do is to create a compelling idea, or at the end of the day, the story, give a meaningful story. Now there's character development as well. In character development, you basically using well-rounded characters with their own what do we call it? Sorry, just a sec. So you're using the characters, the motives the characters have, or whatever you want to achieve with your writing, the various characters, who they are supposed to be, and the end of who they are supposed to be, whether conflictive, whether peaceful, whatever it is, you adopt the character development in a narrative piece of writing. There's also the conflict and tension, which is playing around with elements of drama to keep your audience engaged. Some also use like suspense in when you adopt the pacing mode, where you control the narration with your suspense or with the excitement or with your digging or the introspection of whatever story you're telling. And then, of course, there's the scene building, which also adopts a bit of the literary, that's a descriptive approach. But then this time you use language to recreate the scenes and the settings. So that's it for the techniques. So you're either doing a narrative write-up or you are doing a literary write-up. Are we good? Okay, but in all of it, you must have an eye and ear for brevity. Okay, who is your audience? How much time or attention do they have to commit to the story? In the larger scheme of things, or in your country, or in whatever space you operate in, what else is happening that could possibly be competing with what you're composing or you're putting together? Now, when the story is completed or when it's expected to be published, and of course, where that's the platform is going to be on. So you realize that the five W's and an H, which is a key principle in journalism, it sits here when it comes to brevity. Okay, so know your audience. That's the people you're targeting when you're before you write. You need to plan all of that. Is it people that have time? For example, when it comes to time, if you know your audience is broadcast audience, you know that that's transitory media. There's no playback unless the next bulletin or the next when there's a repeat broadcast. And so, how much time do I have for this story? And anyone who's worked in a broadcast newsroom or production setting knows that everything is time. So your story should be a minute and 30 seconds, or your story should be 45 seconds. It should be 120 seconds, whatever it is. Just know how much time that your audience, vis-a-vis the platform you have, can be committed to the story. Of course, what else is happening? Is there a breaking news story? Is there something tensions going on when you are trying to write a very entertaining piece? Just know the dynamics because, for example, in instances of disaster, who has time for an entertaining piece? You know what I mean? So just know what it is within the spectrum of time that you're putting out you're working to put out a piece of work. Just be sure what else is happening so that your work and your efforts don't go to waste. Then of course, there's also when the story can be completed. If you realize that this is a story that would sit better published over the weekend, because over the weekend there's time, people are relaxed, people are free, and all of that, then you work towards it to make sure that by the weekend this story should be out. You don't release it earlier or not later. And of course, the platform, is it digital? Is it print? Is it broadcast? There are dynamics in writing for all of these various platforms. For example, for print, depending on space you have, the print space you have, you can go on and on and on and write as much as possible. For digital, depending on how much time, on YouTube, for example, there's a lot of competition for attention to content. So you be minded over there. And of course, for broadcast, it's set in stone. It is decided by your editor. And so, yeah, you really have to play by the game. So that's where having an eye and ear for brevity comes in the most. Okay. Now, in modern journalism or in modern day, I always say that now there's not necessarily journalism practice. There is the magazine practice. And if it's solutions oriented, then yeah, you are a hit. Um, we've moved from the days of hard, consumption of hard news, facts, and elements. Of course, there's still aspects of that in our practice, but we've in this era, people prefer a very relaxing approach to what they consume online or on TV or in their magazines than the hard way, which used to be the case. And this is where solutions journalism have come to solutions journalism has come to champion. And basically, what we mean by solutions journalism is instead of reporting that which is negative, which news had been, the kind of news we were used to, and that which should create panic, and that which gives like, oh my God, or oh my wow, oh wow kind of effect. Solutions journalism is, can we tell that same story but with results of a problem solved? Okay, solution, so to say. Is there somebody that can tell that same story using someone else who has found a solution to that problem? So if you, from the slide, you see that solutions journalism is rigorous, is evidence-based, and it's a response to social problems. Yes, a solution can only be a response to a problem that solves it. Okay, so I will go into the various elements. That's how the rigor of it, the evidence-based reporting you have to do, and the kind of response it should be shortly. But before we do that, like I gave the examples, let's examine these two. And here I would really need feedback from participants. So there's one story by Bloomberg Business Week on the left, and then there's another. There's Ebola is coming. The US had a chance to stop the virus in its tracks. It missed. Versus amid failure and chaos, an Ebola vaccine. Now, tell me, which one creates panic? And which one gives you a kind of like a soothing effect, even though it's still Ebola, but you feel like, okay, I'm at peace?
The one that gives me hope is the one that has a vaccine attached. So there is a solution. Even if Ebola is here, we have the vaccine on the way.
Okay, great. Now, let me ask you, the other one, how do you feel about that headline?
It causes fear to stir up within me. I'm wondering, when is Ebola coming next to where I am?
Okay, great. So then, in essence, we're saying that story 2 on the right is was written with the solutions journalism orientation or approach. Okay, you pick the problem, then you look out for a solution, a possible solution, or simply say a response. Has somebody responded to this problem? Whether the person succeeded or failed, it is still a solutions journalism story or a solutions oriented story. So we look at another one. Rape, murder of kids common in South Africa, but not in other countries. Then there's rough justice, meet the dogs helping put rapists in jail. Can someone help identify which one has the solutions approach and why the other one doesn't?
I think the first one, that has rape, murder of kids common in South Africa but not in other countries, has no solution to it. And the second one, which talks about the dogs that are helping put rapists in jail, is more solution oriented. That's what I think. Because we know that there's rapists, but then there's also something that's being done about it. And it being dogs is even more intriguing. So you're interested in finding out how they're doing it.
That's great. Thank you. So that's basically it, you know. A solutions oriented story must have a response. Now, you can go into whether the response was successful or not later. But the point is that there has been a response to it, to the problem. And so it calms nerves. It brings ideas that people can even further expand on. And so we say a solutions oriented story is endless, because if you realize, you can go on and on and on and on, because once you identify one response, another person would identify another response, and then once we spread the story out and we have insight on all of these responses, we see that in the end the problem gets taken care of. Okay. So let's go to the pegs of solutions journalism. Number one, it covers a response to a problem and how it happened. This needs no explanation. I mean, we've gone through the examples, you've seen, we've spoken through them. You identified the one that doesn't and the approach to it, and the one that is and calms nerves and the approach to it. So, like I always say, there should be a response to a problem. Okay, and then you write about how the response came about. Whether it was successful or not, that's another angle of a story. Okay. Then it provides evidence of impact, and impact could be positive or negative, like I'm saying. Looking at effectiveness, not just intentions. Okay, if it is a pilot, evidence may be incomplete, but then again, the whole idea of journalism is to tell the story anyway, unbiased. And so you lay the facts clear that perhaps this is a pilot's response, but here XYZ, it's how it's gone. Now, in the evidence, there's the qualitative or the quantitative evidence, and there's evidence showing that the response is not working. So it shouldn't always be a success story. If it failed, there's also that bit of data analysis to the story that you could expand, as I've earlier hinted. So it could be qualitative analysis of the evidence, could be quantitative analysis of the evidence in achieving a detailed story. Now, it definitely produces insights. Like I was saying, one idea pops up, through that another idea is fished out, and another is fished out. So all of these insights exposes a problem or whatever, and eventually kills it. Doesn't succeed, there's analysis of it, another person picks up on it, and then it goes on and on and on. So the insight is key. And then, of course, it points out any limitations of the response as well. So it is not only good news. Solutions journalism. So when we try to compare and contrast the journalism we've been used to and the modern day journalism, which is solutions oriented, we seem to kind of think one is all negative and one is supposed to be all positive. No. There could be a solution to it, but then of course it had issues, or it had limitations, or it wasn't entirely successful, or it failed thoroughly. It is still a story that ought to be told. Once there was a response and there's evidence of the response, and that you can produce the insights of it, you might as well also tell the limitations of it or the successes of it. Okay. Okay, so you find out that this presentation is heavy on solutions journalism because solutions journalism captures everyone, every content creator. Okay, now we are in a world where we basically finding our way through our own world. We won't wait for scientists, to come, or specialists to solve problems for us. In business, somebody could think of a solution and come up with an IT tool that kills it, okay? In social circles, in health, in every field. And that is why now in modern day practice, we are big on SOJO, which is solutions journalism. And so I'll take you through quickly what makes a solutions journalism story. So as we've already gone through, just our quick ones, just know there definitely has to be a response where the story focuses on a response to a problem, not just the problem. Okay, so a response. There's the problem. that you are reporting on. But then, of course, there has been a response, which is a likely solution. Did it succeed? Did it not succeed? You tell the story. There should be evidence. So, reports of evidence of results often, but not always. When in instances where it's not successful, yes, there is evidence, but that doesn't mean you should shelve the story. The story is still got to be told. And then, of course, it must produce insights, approaches, lessons, because from there, then other people could pick up on the idea, look at the shortfalls, analyze it, and expatiate on it. And then, of course, the limitations. It adds the challenges and the issues that reduce chances of success. Okay, and if it was very successful, you also highlight what made it so successful. Okay, so there's also what solutions journalism is not. Because of what it is, it is in our modern world, we tend to confuse it. We tend to confuse the concept of solutions journalism in our everyday content creation and publications and practice. So we say that it is not a silver bullet, okay? So let's take these two stories. 5 tech tools improving access to mental health care in low and middle income countries. These tech platforms are helping the world's most vulnerable communities access the care they need. Versus Omomi is leveraging digital technology to provide women with easy access to quality mental health care. So basically, it is not a silver bullet because you can, if you are writing about response, don't forget the aspect of specificity in our practice. This one says 5 tech tools improving access to mental health care in low and middle income countries. Do you have the room? Have an eye and ear, again, for brevity. Do you have the room to expand on all 5? Or you're going to do a compare and contrast, which may do harm to these persons who are behind these responses. But then if you look at the one from Nigeria Health Watch, Omomi is leveraging digital technology to provide women with easy access. It is specific. You pick Omomi and then you analyze Omomi. Okay? This talks about a specific response. This seeks to lump responses. Such a story cannot be exhaustive. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try another one. Smart farming at the forefront of African agriculture. Then versus fertilized by drone, till by text, making tech work for Africa's farmers. Is the concept clear by these two also? If the concept is clear, you can easily identify the difference. The story on smart farming is, so what is smart farming? It's a theory. Okay, it's a theory. There's a concept or a theory of smart farming. Now there are various aspects of smart farming. However, the second story picks one specific response that focuses on a particular aspect of smart farming, where they are using drones to fertilize. Even if there's a response, you can't generalize based on a theory. You must set aside that particular response because you would, of course, analyze it. Okay. Okay. So it is not a campaign or a political cause. Anything along these lines, any story, idea you have that falls under either of these categories, where it takes you to join some sort of a campaign or a political cause, it's fine. Your intentions may be clean and clear, but that is not exactly solutions journalism. Okay, so newly launched campaign to support AU efforts to combat COVID-19 in Africa versus mobile drive-through coronavirus testing, lessons from Germany for Nigeria. Can anyone identify the problem between these two for us? Anyone?
I think the one on the left is not specific. It's generalizing Africa as a theory. But then on the right, we are looking at Nigeria, a specific country that has been mentioned. So the problem, well, on the left, the one on the left is not, it's generalizing. The one on the right, specific.
Okay, thank you. So in simple terms, in doing solutions-oriented stories, you can't seek to compare apples with oranges. If you're doing a comparison, it should be on a level playground, okay? You cannot pick like UN and all of what UN has at its disposal and write something general. That's like a campaign, a global campaign. Once there's UN involved, it's something on a grand scheme of things. If it's in a country and it's something by the government or a political divide, you cannot consider that that response, okay, because of course they all have their intentions. Again, the intention is key. But then if you pick the mobile drive-through coronavirus testing, lessons from Germany for Nigeria, they've picked a country, a developed country, okay, that Nigeria is you're seeking to write to analyze what Germany did that Nigeria could learn from as in a response that could also be beneficial to Nigeria. So of course you could write, you could do comparative writing, but then look at the two elements of comparison and choose right. That's why I just put the note behind it. I thought somebody would pay attention to it. You compare apples to apples. One is a global campaign. I mean, for example, if there's a health crisis and WHO issues a response, that's a campaign. Get it? But in your country, let me just take Tanzania. If an individual comes up with a response or an evidence to solve or to seek to respond to whatever problem, that health problem that is, then that becomes an idea for a solutions-oriented story. Are we good? So I also say that instead, rigorously investigating who is doing it better. Okay, so that's more of it, more examples of it. Usually, it's the examples that make you understand, or the examples where we compare what used to be or what isn't and what is, that makes you really understand what we call it, solutions journalism. So this is another thing that is not just so that we move faster. It is not fluff and acts of kindness. So if somebody is undertaking his or her charity in your local community by providing something to people, you need to analyze the intention or the end game well before you decide to take that to write on with a solutions perspective, from a solutions perspective. So that's where we say, watch John Oliver forgive nearly $15 million in debt with the push of a button. It's not quite Oprah yelling, you get a car, it's better. That's the headline. This is an individual who does his business, quote unquote, and now says, okay, I'm writing, all of these bad debts, I'm writing them off. How does that benefit the larger society? It benefits the beneficiaries. It's to the advantage of the beneficiaries of it. You know what I mean? Vis-a-vis, we stand very strong. Community sharing helps African businesses in Philly stay active during COVID-19. This is something that will benefit everybody. Okay, potentially replicable solution that addresses root cause of problem. This man is forgiving people. He's writing the debts off. Is he going to give further grants? Yes. Would they be paid? In another 5 or so years, he would have to write them off again. However, where the community sharing concept comes in or response comes in, they are fighting together to keep themselves afloat. And so such a response could potentially be replicated and replicated and replicated, analyzed over and over and over again. And then in the end, we deal with the general problem. So the solution comes by, for, and with the community. And it tends to benefit all of them. Okay. So that's it on solutions journalism, which now has become the fundamental or the foundation of our practice now. But then, even before and now, there has always been ethics, okay, that guides us in our writing, in our content production, in whatever we put out, irrespective of the platform. As creatives, it could be a movie you're writing for, writing a screenplay for a movie. It could be for a blog. It could be for a vlog. It could just be on a fun TikTok page. But then whatever it is, there are guidelines. So if you seek to do this professionally, then you have to be minded. So I'll take you through quickly some ethical guidelines. The number one principle is seeking the truth and reporting it. Ask yourself, is what I'm putting out there accurate? Is it biased or not? Somebody will tell you that the truth is relative, but then the guide, what would make you assess the truth by what you're putting out is asking or ascertaining the accuracy of the information and whether it's biased and unbiased. Number two, whatever you're putting out there, would it cause harm? Or if there's already harm, would it minimize harm? It should not incite or provoke people's sensitivities. It's a straightforward principle. Let me see. So in this day of, we're in the days of gender parity, and all of these clash all the time between feminists and feminism and patriarchy, so to say. If you want to write something out there, whatever piece you're putting out, is it going to incite and deepen the woes of one party, or incite one party against the other, or deepen the woes of another? Just think about it. It must minimize harm, or it shouldn't cause any harm at all. If the harm is already done, your piece or that you put out must be able to minimize it. If there's no harm, there is no point ethically inciting or creating it. Now, be independent with your editorial position and avoid conflicts of interest situations. What I'm putting out there, am I aligning with a faction in situations where there are factions? Am I aligning with one party? Is my write-up vividly against another party. Do you understand? Be very clear. And the independence of mind in journalism, no matter where you are, nowadays we have media owners who are even political figures. But don't forget that you as a professional, you can work for them, that's fine, but you are a practitioner, you are a professional. You will not work with that entity a lifetime. You would move on. So be minded by the impressions you create. Avoid being tagged, and you can only do that by being independent with your editorial position. Now, there's also transparency, which is very important. Clearly attributing your sources and methods used to gather information, especially in analytical and narrative write-ups. It is very, very important. People write stories, they do research, where they got the sources from, they don't like to quote them, even for academic purposes. In our thesis, people don't like giving attributions, to the sources. It is completely wrong, and it goes against the ethics of the profession. So be transparent. Always give credit to whom is due. Okay, and do your attributions and then be clear on the methods you use. This is the reason why sometimes some investigative reports come under backlash. Okay, they face backlash because people think that the methods were not right and they were not ethical and all of that. And so it makes nonsense of your hard work. So just be sure to be clear on your sources and the methods you use. Make sure they are practically acceptable standards in our practice, okay? And of course, be accountable. Whatever we produce, we don't produce it for ourselves. We produce it for a larger audience to consume. Now, accountability is these people are consuming whatever you are giving them. And so it must be fair. Where it falls short, be quick to admit and correct it openly. Don't think that you are, quote unquote, a demigod hiding somewhere, especially those who do pieces that like hide behind certain characters to produce a series. No. If you realize you put out the wrong thing, for accountability purposes and for respect for the audience, take responsibility. Come out clear, correct the mistakes, put out what is accurate, and be fair to the audience. Because don't forget, now we always say the audience is discerning. It's not like the audience before were not discerning. They were discerning, but there were limitations. Then there were no tools where people could comment on stories and all of that. Now it's there, so people can come out. Okay, so now we even have the opportunity, our audience have the greater opportunity of holding us accountable and demanding the accuracy and the fairness of us. It doesn't mean that when someone goes to comment on the story, the person is attacking you. If the person is right, accept responsibility, effect the necessary correction. Sometimes people will call for rejoinders in the olden system. Issue the rejoinder and let there be peace, because no matter what, whatever you produce, someone's got to consume it. You can never produce it for yourself alone. Okay? All right. Now, whatever piece you are writing as well, as a creative, as an investigative journalist, as a hardcore newsroom journalist, you must check your facts. We are in the era of information overload. There is so much on the internet, both truth and falsehood, both confused theories, concepts, and there's so much online, okay? And as content producers, we research, and we have to sift through all of these. And that is why fact-checking is key. Now, there are principles to the guidelines. You must, number one, verify every piece of information, which is confirming the facts through multiple credible and reliable sources. That is very important. My boss would always tell me, check and check and recheck and check again for as many times as possible. That is diligence. That's where the concept of due diligence comes in. So please always go through the pain. I know there are some stories that it becomes very difficult to verify the information and to get confirmation. Still check and recheck and go through it painfully to make sure that when I put this out there, it's just going to get me the results per my intentions. Now, there's also source credibility. Like I'm saying, information overload. Too many different angles or ideas. How sure are you of the credibility of the source you are picking? And that is where you must rely on trustworthy sources. There's a basic principle in journalism: when in doubt, leave out. If you are not sure, no matter how sweet, no matter how creative, no matter how distinct it makes your idea or your piece, please leave it out. Just trustworthy sources, such as primary documents, expert opinions, reputable institutions or organizations that you could run your piece of information by for them to say, yes, this is right, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is not entirely accurate. Please go through the pain and verify the credibility of the source so that when you put it out there, the story is not challenged. There's also the principle of transparency. You see, it's popped up its head again. Clearly attributing sources and methods used for gathering information. We all want to know, because we are also in the days of fabrication. People fabricate, and people fabricate to seek to change narratives and change stereotypes. So in the event where they want to use it for negative intentions, they would spin it and spin it and spin it. And you would even believe it just like that. However, once you check the source and the source is questionable. If I check the source and the source is questionable, that's it. I'm not coming back to read from your page or your blog. Okay, so put out the source. Once you verify the credibility of the source, you confidently put it out there. Sometimes people don't quote their sources because of some of these contentions, okay, or backlash. But then transparency is a key principle in what we do. There's also the aspect of correction. Nobody is perfect, and there's nothing new under the sun. Now, in this 21st century, in this Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whatever, there is nothing new under the sun. Every single thing could be reinvented, okay? And so you must promptly correct any errors or inaccuracies found, even after publication. Do your best to resolve it before publication. But the concept of correction targets after publication. A rejoinder could be issued. Correction notice of publication could be issued. Repost the story and make the necessary correction. Just twist it a little bit. Make sure the correction such that if I read the first one and I got misinformed without even realizing, reading the second one makes me know. It's not that you're exposing yourself or exposing your vulnerabilities. You are just doing the right thing to say, yes, I erred and I have seen the light. So I've corrected it for the benefit of all. And it even makes you get the respect that your piece must command. or earn, so to say. Now, use fact-checking resources. This has come to stay. We are fortunate now to have civil society agencies being very open. We have fact-checking institutions set up, what do we call it, based on funding, because of the advent of misinformation and information overload. So please engage and utilize the independent fact-checking tools and organizations. If it's about science, is there a science institution that could check your facts for you and tell you, okay, this is inaccurate, drop this and all of that? If it's about politics, is there an institution, an independent institution that can ensure that you are putting out the right information? So I've stated a few examples, but when you search, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, globally there are lots now, funded and non-funded. So there's Snopes, there's PolitiFact, there's Dubawa, there's International Fact-Checking Network, which is global, and there's the Pointer Institute. What do we seek to achieve in the end? Whatever we are doing in this space, we must maintain trust and credibility. Without it, your career is dead. Believe me. There are those who want to thrive on putting out falsehood, but how far can that go? It wouldn't take long. You might get the traction from the beginning, but that's it. Once someone comes hard at you and you receive that backlash, your credibility is gone, there's no trust again, and you lose it. Okay, so that's it about the ethics and the professional guidelines to what we do. But then, now everything, even TV content, is put online. Social media is rife. Digital content, that's where, everyone is leveraging on. Okay. And so as practitioners also, we have to ensure the safety of the netizens. So netizens are like the population. We seek to assume that the population in the world have moved onto the internet. So on the net, we are all citizens. And over there, there's no nationality, doesn't matter. Ghanaians enjoy a lot of East African content, a lot of South African content. South Africans love their Nigerian soap operas, so on the internet, nationality doesn't necessarily count. But then as we play in the space, we must ensure our safety, because there are also those who are on the internet to pry and to steal from others and to make nonsense of what we do. So someone could just even break into your back end of whatever software you use or your page and seek to post rubbish, pardon my French, on your page just to discredit you and all of that. That is a breach of your digital safety. So as we stay in the space, we must also be mindful and navigate the digital space such that we are safe, we are not bullied, we are not harmed, our mental health is protected and preserved, and the mental health also of the netizens are also preserved. So there's the personal safety online, okay? And there are certain actions you must take. Password management. Now we are even aided by the internet, to say, choose a strongly worded password. Sometimes when it will give you guidelines as to how to set up your password, it will tell you this is weak. It'll tell you this is strong. It'll tell you this. It'll tell you that, Yeah, but please, let's make sure that our passwords are conforming to tighter and stricter standards, and they cannot easily be guessed. The days of just using your date of birth plus your first name and all of that are long gone. Just be sure that in setting up your passwords, they are very strong and protected and cannot be easily guessed. Now, there's also the two-factor authentications, okay? For example, on WhatsApp and other platforms, please be sure to do them so that your data cannot be easily stolen or your platforms cannot be taken away from you or hacked. There's also software updates. We tend not to like them because perhaps it'll waste your time. It takes too long at that particular moment. So we tend to postpone and postpone and postpone. Careful. The software creators or inventors know why they periodically update them, just so that they can resist malware and the protection is tighter. Even websites, you have to keep on buying and putting in place SSLs, okay? Your security licenses, so that your website cannot be easily torn through. There was a very embarrassing situation here in Ghana with our electoral commission in the 2016 elections, when the whole website of Ghana's electoral commission was hacked and torn apart. It was pulled down. That was globally embarrassing. And so we had to count our ballots and declare it manually. That was very, very embarrassing. And so the point of this example is, if a whole country, an institution like that their website could be hacked, how much more, some of us, our pages and stuff like that. So let's be in tune with our software updates on our phones, on our computers, on our tablets, on our devices and whatever. Please, let's update them. There's also vigilance with opening links and attachments. They would couch very attractive and nice headlines or intros and say, click to read more, download attachments. If you don't know it, please just preserve it or leave it, because some of these have malwares embedded in them. And once you visit the site, they retrieve all of your data and then they can start to manipulate your back ends. So from personal, we move to online interactions where it affects all the netizens. So be mindful about harassment. Please, let's stop bullying. Let's stop harassing people. The content, whatever you're putting out there, think about it that this must give someone peace. It shouldn't create panic. It shouldn't disturb anyone's mental health. It shouldn't destabilize anyone. Let's be responsible. Let's be responsible netizens. Let's think of our rights and the rights of the next person. Okay? Responsible use of social media. Very, very important, especially those who have large following. Please, we cannot misbehave. And don't forget, the internet never forgets. You can misbehave now, but it will soon catch up with you and you'll be totally discredited and you'll be out in no time. Don't forget, new people are coming up every now and then. But the internet is big to accommodate us all. However, if you are irresponsible, very soon the netizens will kick you out and you'll be forgotten like you were dead, but you'll still be alive. Now, verify identities. So I, for one, when I get a friend request, I go and check who it is. I go onto other platforms to see if with the same name, the same person will pop up. I check mutual friendships. I go on the wall or the person's page to see what the person writes or not, depending on my purpose of being on that platform. Noise is everywhere, even on the internet, and I don't want that noise. I want to focus. I want to still be who I am professionally and with my normal social life without it disturbing anyone. or anyone disturbing me. So I try and always verify identities. And then, of course, use of proper reporting tools. We've just gone through the techniques and all of that. Let's be mindful of what we put out there and who it goes to and what. There's the area of data protection. Use of encryptions, regular backup of data, using secure networks, being mindful about data collections. Don't forget, every site you visit, you leave your trace there. So think about it before you click that link and go in there, because if they get hold of your data, that's it. Now, online security, the use of antivirus softwares, use of firewalls, using secure protocols, regular monitoring of accounts. Some tend to be very busy, and so they just focus on producing and posting, producing and posting. Who knows? Someone else could also be throwing something in. So periodically, check your pages, check your vlogs and your blogs, check your content outline. I always say keep a working diary. So that you are not tempted to think, oh, I put this there. No. If you say in a month, at the end of the month, when you're assessing, you're doing your reflections and all of that, go over it. Check what you posted and what you didn't post, the results or the feedback you got, how well it was received, and the comments that came. Do all of that analysis. Regularly monitor your accounts. Then you would know if there are people prying or there's something fishy going on there. And then, of course, there's digital wellness. Set your boundaries. Take breaks if you need to. I have a schedule for how many times I visit Facebook in a week. LinkedIn, because it's a professional space, I try to be regular there. But for Facebook, I have a schedule. WhatsApp, I check my messages when I am free. So you need to be able to have control over yourself when it comes to the internet or the space. Avoid the addiction. Practice self-care when you need it. Are you able to put away your phone for some time? Are you able to go off social media for some time? Or every time when your phone goes off, your nerves are racking, not because you are losing a business deal, but because of what people are because of being late on what is posted on social media. Think about it and be mindful of self-care. And of course, seek support if need be. It is very, very important. No one is an island of him or herself. And from time to time, we all need support. We all need help. Just make sure you're reaching out to the right person or to the right platform for the kind of support you need. Bottom line, protect yourself and others by keeping the internet space safe. Okay. So at this point, let's have an open fora, questions or discussions, takeaways, concepts that people may want to discuss to perhaps test the ideas. The floor is open.
All right, I'll go first. Thanks, Rhoda. Thank you for the reminder on the responsibilities we have when we do this, when we do what we do. My question is around fact checking. I don't know. I feel like we are losing the battle because the social media platforms in a push to promote themselves, very much advocating and promoting themselves as new news, which is true. But then that's really at the expense of traditional journalism, which is very thorough and takes the time to get all the facts right. So, do you still feel optimistic about the state of things, or do we just have to accept the new world order and then work around things like I've seen the adoption of community notes taking hold, so things like that, and then what does that mean for journalism? Because then that's more of society. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, I say that the need for fact checking is the reason why we have the response from the world, where there's funding given to institutions, independent institutions, to sort of check facts, maintain facts, and ensure that the right thing is being put out there, that the right information is being put out there. Now, the onus lays on us, the practitioners, to go to them. For example, in Ghana, now almost every major news bulletin is started from one platform and it has come to stay, has a fact-checking segment at the end of the day of all the news of the day. This person said this and it became a news story. It was trending. What are the facts of it? The person said XYZ. It is 100% accurate. It is, especially when it comes from political actors and influencers. It is entirely accurate. It is not entirely accurate. This is absolute falsehood. So we do that. Now it's here. We do that. Newsrooms have also incorporated data journalists or data journalism into their everyday work, where for a particular story that risk being, the chances of misinformation, they will create a segment where the data journalist would now come and throw more light on the story, give a history, figures, numbers, turn up of events, and what it is till date, so that everyone's mind is clear. Because if you check, there's this angle to it, there's this person said that, there's that person said that, and so it sets it into better perspective, and every doubt is cleared. We must take advantage of these opportunities, these institutions that are there. Every area of the globe has them. And then, of course, we have those whose work transcend across the globe. So please, let's utilize them. There's the temptation to want to be the first to put the story out, but then there's risk to it. So like we always say, make sure you've verified. If it requires, so always plan the story or the piece you're writing. When you plan it, having an ear for brevity, you would see where you think that, okay, this information I must verify. Now the question is, who do I verify this with? If it's about social, where to go to? If it's about health, where to go to? You need that. In broadcasting, that is why sometimes we bring in, we do interviews and we slip them in, because once an expert speaks to it, if you're not sure of what your research is pointing you to, use that as an idea, create interview questions out of it, ask an expert, and cut a sound bite and infuse it into the story. It clears the doubts. Where experts have opposing ideologies, you can bring both and allow the consumers or the audience to judge. But then at the end of the day, you've put out the raw facts. And so nobody can hold you in contention, but of course you can be held accountable, and you've been responsible in your accountability. Okay, that is the known expert. That is the known expert. They have spoken. So judge. So, I mean, we have to take it serious. Let's not be in a haste. Let's try and do the right thing. Let's not follow, let's be very conventional, you know, and be guided by the ethics of this that we do as practitioners. Go to the institutions, get the facts checked, and put it out there. When you plan your story outline before you start to write, have all of that, you know, all of those stages outlined, and go through it, exhaust the idea so that when the story is put out, you don't get any backlash or red flags being raised. Okay, so as a journalist or as a practitioner, you have your story idea. The second thing is, what is the objective for the story you're writing? Out of that objective, you set the goals for the story. In those goals, you come up with questions that need to be answered in relation to the story. Okay? Then you do your research as well. You see what you've gotten from your research, where you have question marks based on the plan. Then you go through it, get the experts, conduct the interview. Of course, you can't use the whole interview piece, but then from the interview, you get to confirm, you get confirmation on some of your informations. You get to dispute some of the information you got and, you know, strike it out. It helps shape the idea, the story idea, and the objective guides you. In the end, you get the right piece of information. And then if it meets the objective, you can just go straight ahead and publish it. But a story idea, when you don't plan a story in any aspects of life, without plan, you fail. Okay? Without a plan, you're not successful. The story will be all over the place. So always have the idea. Now, set the objective for the idea. Out of the objective, draw your goals, have the goals of the story, and then do your research. Out of your research, do your fact checking. Would the fact checking involve conducting an interview with this person? Would the fact checking involve doing a draft and then sharing with, if it's a science or the expert piece, sharing with the experts to say, can you please confirm or fact check these for me? And at the end of the day, you get to put out the right thing and put out an ethical piece. Okay, thank you. So this is jurisdiction specific. I can speak to Ghana. In Ghana, you can report to the police. But first of all, you must have reported on the platform, reported whoever it is or whatever content on that platform that say it's abusive, it's this, it's that. So there's a history of it. If it's getting worse or if you're getting targeted, you just report to the police. Those profiles are taken. So it's jurisdiction specific. I think that there's cybersecurity organizations. I don't know, but I can speak for other places, but I can speak for Ghana and in England. There's the cyber security agencies that you can also report to. So it's jurisdiction specific, but of course, it is something in modern day or in our times, governments or state institutions take very seriously, especially when it involves journalists, because it comes as an attack on journalism. And so it's taken seriously. So just know what the protocols are in your jurisdiction of practice, and then just utilize it. Okay. So when it comes to historical writing, you cannot dispute the facts or distort them. There are incidents where you get two different storylines in the, as the history is being told. So you probably want to settle the scores. And that's when you get an expert to speak to it. Okay, so we usually have the anthropology departments of the universities. We have the historians, the history departments of the universities. Sometimes too, we have people who are still alive from the actual event, the times of the actual event. That will be distinct. If you get such people, it's distinct, and they set it into perspective, and they put to sleep all of the noise and the arguments surrounding it. But otherwise, it's still your go-to expert agencies that would fact check, that would correct the misinformation, and make sure the history is not distorted. But never set out to rewrite the history. I also say that it's an area that's difficult to operate, but then documentaries have come to make it even more lively, where you use reconstructions. You reconstruct the stories using characters. So you could use silhouette, you could use for audiovisual, you could use the silhouette effect, you could use animation, you could use cartoon, black cartoony styles. So various ways to make it exciting to consume in our present world, but not to rewrite it. So that in that case, you pick the history as it has been told or as it is, then you tend to use any of these techniques to explore it, to make it exciting and lively. Some put a comic effect to it, which is fine, but just make sure that it doesn't demean or tend to play on any of the integrity of the characters. Okay, so journalism is journalism. Let me answer you by this approach. There are those who landed in journalism without training, okay? And so they sought to learn on the job. And there are those that study journalism from the get-go and then get to practice it and build it into a career. Both parties can build a career in journalism. However, the one that started with the training, all of these we learned, you are taught from school. If not all, I mean, of course, the standards evolve, but you are taught the basic principles from school, okay? The one that is learning on the job or studied something else and has a passion for writing and so finds him or herself in the field as a creative, you need to bear in mind all the time that this is a game of credibility. Once you are discredited, you don't have a career anymore. You become a clown in the space, okay? So you need to work your way, and as you are learning on the job, you need to find out some of these things. And if you are learning in a very formal setting, these things you'd be taught. However, if you are self-teaching or self-learning, focus on these areas and always try to improve, because that's how you get to keep building the career. Else, you don't have one. So there's the intention and there's the objective, okay? I'm setting this up to achieve what? What am I in this space for? There are those who are just doing it for fun, and so they don't mind just losing. I mean, they don't mind integrity. They don't care about their integrity. They will just even lift. There are those who lift people's stories and just change words and republish them as theirs without giving credit and all of that. It's fine. They are there. Question is, are you doing this as a professional? And do you know where you want to head? Or you are in this just for the fun of it, or for the numbers, or for the followership? Because again, you notice that now, because a lot of these platforms also are paying, or they are paid platforms. People, the focus, people are overly focusing on the returns, but it shouldn't be at the detriment of your profession if it is. So know why you are in the space. I I have always said that I am a trained journalist. I'm going to be a trained journalist. Times evolved. I moved from the newsroom. I learned about magazine productions, learned about solutions journalism. I do documentaries. I even do talk show productions and all of that, but still with the journalistic principles. So it is meaningful and relatable content that I want to be associated with. Nothing else. Other than that, I'm not interested. Pay me whatever amount, I am not interested. That is my goal for myself and where I'm going with this career. And that's why I played small and played small and played small. But at a point, I apply for international opportunities and then I get them. And then I don't even have to apply again because over there too, I've established myself, to some extent. And so when they're looking for someone in Ghana, this person would would be a reference or recommend me or that. So just know why you are in the space and what you want to achieve in the space. If you are in it for the fun of it, I don't say be careless. I won't advise you to be careless, but you can be careless because you think you're not taking this anywhere. But if you are in it for the long haul, then because journalism is actually one of the simplest professions that you can practice for as long as possible till you die, you go to your grave, and still do other businesses on the side or still do other things. So just know why you're in the space. Let that person who is doing whatever it is and being careless be, because perhaps that's why he or she is in the space. But if you know why you're in the space, you set yourself apart. I never, even when I started my career and I was in very strict newsrooms, barely any salary, to take home. I knew why I was in that newsroom because I knew this is it's a stepping stone for me. And so from here, if I build myself from here, at the next place, I'll get paid. And that's how I progressed. So it's all about what you want in the space and where you want to take it to. So in terms of tools, the tools are for your own protection, making sure that your devices or your platforms are not hacked. And that one is device specific. So there are the Androids and there are the Apples. And, each of these sets have a number of firewalls or softwares and stuff like that. So depending on what you do, I always say speak to the professionals, get advice. So consult. You can't do it all by yourself. Of course, you can go to YouTube or you can ask Google and and all of that. You get recommendations, but it's always better to speak to the experts if this is something you take serious, so that they advise and recommend the appropriate tools for your setting. Okay. But because it's not one size fits all. And then also from jurisdiction to jurisdiction to the dynamics are not the same. In Nigeria, with a lot of a huge population and very, very people who are very IT, inquisitive and pry a lot and all of that, there's what an expert or a professional would advise and recommend for you. So that one, I would refer you to those whose area it is. But in my space, I know the basic ones are making sure that my passwords are always tight and strong. I'm always buying and avoiding cracked versions of softwares and antivirus, using the right malwares, getting the paid for SSLs, so that my sites or stuff are not intruders don't easily break through. So that's all I can say at a personal level. But the professionals would best advise, depending on your setting and your situation or your case. That's why they're also there. They're also doing business. So a little something to get the right stuff going and to make sure that you are keeping your space safe. It's I think you shouldn't overlook. So a story that doesn't match the pegs of solutions journalism. So always put the pegs by it. It's that becomes like your litmus test. Does this problem has a response? Are there insights to the response? Do you get it? So those pegs, you run the litmus test. If it passes it, then you proceed, and then you know that it's a solutions journalism or a solutions oriented story. Otherwise, just do a general reporting, and that's also fine. Without a response, then it's not. There's no solution. But if there's been a response, then why not? You take it through, you run through the pegs of it, and then you put out your story. So in the absence of any question, this is what I'd like everyone to do. You've been taken through the pegs of solutions journalism. I think that each person in the area that you are, identify a problem, build a story idea out of it, see if there's a response, then do a solutions-oriented story on it. Be mindful of what solutions journalism is and is not. If need be, I'll share the presentation with Roland, and then it could be maybe a reference point for many of you. But if not, I'm sure you all took notes as well. Everyone should identify a problem, run it through the pegs of solutions journalism. Has there been a response? Go through all of the pegs and then write a story. But I don't think anybody should come back and say that there hasn't been a problem with a response, which could have, out of which you could generate a story which is solutions oriented. In every community, in every society, just be mindful of what solutions journalism is and what it's not, or what a solutions oriented story is and what it's not. So come up with one, identify a problem, come up with a story idea, and then give us a solutions oriented story on that. So I would advise that in doing your story, let us know where you're writing from so that we can fact check and verify. So if you are from this area in Uganda, or I'm from that city in Tanzania, this town specific, yes, then we can, once we fact check, if there's a response, it will take us straight to what the response is, and then we can assess your story.
All right, I think guys, you've had the assignment. Really, you can't find the issues around you. Rhoda, before I give the thanks and release you, I just wanted to know your thoughts on the state of media viability. I know you've talked a bit about how your professional career, how you've developed it with intentionality. But things are changing. It's a very fluid space right now. So yeah, what are your thoughts very much around the state of media viability on the continent, the opportunities, and some of the places, some of the platforms that are doing interesting things that we can check out for some inspiration and ideas.
Sure. All right, so it's still a very, very viable area of practice, or an area that one can build a career into. This is what I always say. If you're a journalist, worst case scenario, if you want to see greener pastures elsewhere, you can teach. You can teach English. So just be sure that your English too is like good and of standard, international standard quality. But be ready to go through it, okay? Go through the growth and progression. It won't just start as boom, then you are there. You need to take your time, go through the process, go through the mill, build yourself up, still take on courses, educate yourself. Now there's data journalism, there's developmental journalism, and these are master's programs. If you choose it as a career, build yourself into it, because in the end, even if you don't want to practice again, you may end up in a state independent state agency handling communications or an aspect of it, like when it comes to development, when it comes to data, when it comes to what's this what do we call it, media law. Do you understand? Media management, where you become the media manager for those who own the platforms. In our times, our profession has taken a downturn because in the advent of the digital revolution, everyone else can get up and call him or herself a journalist. So I know a lot of people who don't even like to hold themselves out as journalists again, because they feel you wouldn't have the kind of respect, that you should earn, right? So it's a global thing, but then I say that is what should challenge us, we the professionals, to set ourselves apart. Let those who are the noise makers make noise. Let we the practitioners set ourselves apart. No matter how slow it'll take for us to grow, there are also those who want that kind of content you are producing. There are those who want to hear the story devoid of, in a very professionally distinct way, vis-a-vis those who want to hear the story in a very loud and noisy manner. So it's still very viable. There are still opportunities in there. There's career progression. Now there are too many, now even media pluralism it's just so much. Like in Ghana, there are, even one city, you could have, some cities have more than 50 radio stations. And which people are working there? They're still hiring. Of course, many of them are not paying very well because of their objective for owning the platforms. But again, I say, set yourself apart and be diligent, so that those diligent in practice would come for you, or you'd get opportunities from them. In the digital space, yes, it's there. Just understand the modalities and the dynamics and operate within the space fairly and professionally. Over time, you get the recognition, and those who can relate to your content you'd always have them feeding on your content. When you're tired of the practice, am I going into corporate? Am I going into law? Am I branching off entirely? It's still options that are there. So yes, journalism is still a very viable profession, very respected one, except that with the noise now, it becomes on the surface. Let me put it this way: the surface value has diminished, But if you set yourself apart, you still get the recognition and you stand out. And so the doors of opportunity get open to you. I also always say that don't play small and local. There are people that you should look up to internationally. So international media, periodically give them attention, see how they are evolving, adopt some of their strategies, infuse it into your writing or into your pieces, and then see the kind of feedback, and then just be in tune and always catch up, because now the techniques and tools of this practice evolve and move so fast. If you are not careful, you'll be outdated or you'll be left behind. So try and keep up if it is something you want to take or keep as a profession.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the words of encouragement and what the people have had, and we can expect quality journalism from them. That's solutions oriented. Thank you so much, Rhoda. Thank you. This has been a very informative session, and we appreciate your knowledge and we appreciate you for sharing it with us. All
You're
right,
welcome.
we have hit the 2
My
hours
pleasure.
that we had scheduled for this. So I think thank you everyone for coming. Unless you have questions for me or for any more questions for Rhoda, we can leave at will. So the assignments, you know the drill. Put them up on Muwado. I'll share the links with Rhoda, and then she can leave some remarks in the comments. So please, you have a week till the next webinar. So let's have those assignments in. The platform is okay now. So even the assignments from last week, which you were unable to post, please go ahead and put them up now so that you can get the feedback from the facilitator. All right, guys, if there's no questions or anything, feel free to leave and we'll be shutting down the call.